see someone that is in the type of role that you want and work out how they got there, because actually it's often not the way we think.
You know, you think you want to do it, but you might start working towards it and realise, okay, maybe that's not for me, but it leads you into something else. So I think, it's just constantly looking at what that next step is and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks rather than feeling really overwhelmed.
Hello and welcome, Chloe and Ollie, to the People First podcast, the Young Careers podcast. I am really excited to have you both with me today. For the listeners, I am joined by Chloe Davidson, who is our Business Centre Manager in Brook Street Social Care, one of my lovely colleagues. We're joined by Oliver Haddock, founder of career development platform, The Careers Edit, and I'm really excited to have you both here today. I'm going to come to you first, Ollie. I would love you to tell me, firstly, and the listeners, a little bit more about you, the day job, the careers at it, and sort of how you've got there and how they work together, maybe.
Perfect. Yeah, lots to get through. I'll try and be as quick as I can.
You have time, mate. You have time.
So yeah, I'm a full-time lawyer, and I actually, even within the firm now, have a hybrid role. So that's the first complication. So I am still fee earning. I'm a commercial litigator, so dealing with sort of high-value disputes. But then the firm, as many professional services outfits now do, has an innovation department, looking at ways we can be more efficient, looking at ways we can be doing things better. And so I now spend half of my time advising, supporting them. It's a really interesting role. We look at problems that our clients have and find out ways we can solve them. And, you know, if the firm can sort of make new revenue streams out of that, so much the better.
Yeah.
And then the careers edit, where does that fit in? So it's super organic. So I was told, much like many young professionals are across London and especially in the city, get out networking, go and build your skills. You've got to go and develop. And I looked at the options, and as I say, particularly in the city, and it was super corporate, like hyper stuffy. I always say, you know, always in a corporate boardroom, you can imagine the grey carpets, the warm red wine in the corner, just not places or environments you want to spend your free time.
Yeah.
And so I literally was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I know I've got to go out networking. I know I've got to build a career, but I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And so it started really simple, invited, you know, we were booking sort of rooms above pubs, just really basic venues. And it really worked because the people that came actually enjoyed themselves.
Yeah.
And what they found is they were building actual relationships because they were relaxed. They weren't just handing out a million business cards.
Yeah.
And so word kind of spread. We worked with a few other organisations. I've been running events for a legal focused organisation for a while. So we sort of got the word out to some of those different industry sort of networks, and it just went from there, and it's grown and grown and grown.
Perfect. That was a really good intro and good summary. Chloe, I'm going to come to you. I obviously know you, but I would love for you to give like the listeners a bit of an overview on your career with Brook Street or your career as a whole and sort of how you've reached this point.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to be here. So my career as a whole is literally with Brook Street. I went to uni. I did an international business management degree. When I went to uni, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I went to uni basically as a stepping stone to moving out and getting my independence. But I knew I wanted to go on a career path that I could progress. So when I finished uni, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Started looking online, looking at different sectors really. So I went on a careers website and I was looking at, I came across recruitment. I didn't even know it was a thing. I was like, what is this? But it said, if you're target driven, if you're money motivated, that would suit you. So I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like me. I think I could do that. Had absolutely no experience. Obviously, I'd done like odd jobs throughout uni and stuff like that, but I just tweaked my CV because obviously I didn't have anything recruitment wise. So I tweaked my CV and I put on there that I wanted to get into recruitment, put it online, and then my first manager, Lucy, reached out to me. So I actually started off with Brook Street as a consultant. That was in Cardiff. So I stayed there after uni. And then because I said very early on I want to progress, my manager worked with me and, you know, I did various things to work towards moving into a management role. I ended up moving to Birmingham as the branch manager. So that was, complete. Within a couple of weeks, literally overhauled my life, like moved city, new job, got a car, everything. And then I've progressed into business centre manager, which is essentially the same role, but just on a bigger scale.
Thank you. I love that. And when we first started working together, Chloe, I remember like I shouldn't be ageist or anything like that, but I remember like seeing like someone my age that looked like me and talked like me and like had the same sort of like far as me. Like, and I always found it really easy to work with you. I think because we were the same age. Not that I don't with others, but I think we both had some sort of a shared goal being at the point we are in our career, if that makes sense. And that sort of pivots nicely into what this whole episode is about, and it's that idea of, in inverted commas, leveling up. So I'm just want to open to the table, like, what do you think leveling up means? What do you define it as?
Great
I'll
question.
come to you first.
Yeah,
Ollie,
I'll jump in. Great question. So leveling up, what does that mean? I guess it's how to take that career to the next stage. And what I love is that can mean a million different things.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, success is very different in everyone's eyes. So how do you push on? How do you get to that next step, whatever that might be for you?
Great. I love that. Do you have anything to add, Chloe?
I think for me as well, it's not only about your career, it's like leveling up in different aspects of your life. And I think that can then, I think if you level up in certain areas of your life, it can have a knock-on effect in others. So like your well-being, your physical health, things like that. I think it's all like if you take a holistic view of it, you can, I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Well, I love the point you were making. Just stop
Yeah.
there. That was
That's
beautiful. That was perfect.
that's literally perfect. Literally perfect. And it's something, you said it, or touched on it, which is maybe what made me think of this. It's something I was told really early in my career is closed mouths don't get fed, so you need to like set your intentions straight away. Like you did, for example, with your manager. And I don't know, Ollie, was there a time in your career where you had to actually maybe do something similar, like reach above, like speak out and sort of try and put yourself in those rooms, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I always talk about internal networking, especially at the junior level. You hear about networking, we could talk about this for hours, but actually internal networking is just as important. So it's humans are, whether we like it or not, flawed, and we make decisions based on human factors and soft factors. So if you can get yourself in a room with these people that are making decisions, the sooner the better. So it might be as silly as like offer to help to run the Christmas party or something like that, because you actually then get to spend the next 6 months with a relatively senior person that's probably a decision maker, and build a relationship with them. So it's all those tricks that I think you need to think about.
I completely agree with you. I'm huge on networking myself, and I don't know whether it's maybe maybe it's a stereotypical Irish thing, but we're naturally friendly or would speak to people or strike up conversations. And I mean, when that's London, it can come like at a bit of some looks and stuff sometimes when you are really friendly. But I have no problem like making coffees with people in the kitchen that are senior, or like I think my second day I had a coffee with the marketing director because she works with me in my office, and that's just someone I want to know. Do you know what I mean? So I completely echo that. And I don't know if you have maybe a similar experience with maybe, I don't know if you had any mentors or anything maybe within Brook Street, or anyone that you felt like was providing that for you. Do you know?
Yeah, definitely. I've actually throughout my career gone out of my way to ask people to officially mentor me rather than just, obviously it's great reaching out to people, just having conversations, but I think to have an official mentor relationship where you're sort of specifically working towards maybe certain goals with them. So what I did was I've had a few throughout my career, and actually you do find as well you might grow out of certain mentors, because I would always go to somebody that was ahead of me in something that I wanted to do, and then I would sort of work with them for maybe a year or a couple of years, or maybe the frequency of the amount of time that we'd catch up would be less and less as I moved along as well. But I think it's definitely good to have those structured relationships as well, where you maybe catch up every couple of weeks, every month, and they can obviously, if they've gone on a path that you want to go on, they can give you some of the cheat codes, I guess, of how they got there. You're not necessarily going to go on exactly the same path, but just also they can push you out your comfort zone, because I think there's certain times where you know where you want to go, but you don't necessarily always feel comfortable taking the actions, but they can hold you accountable. So you've agreed you're going to go and do this, or you're going to reach out to this person, and if you're speaking to that mentor again in 2 weeks and you go back and you go, haven't done anything that we said you advised me to do, they're just going to not not want to work with you and not want to mentor you. But I think if you go back and you say, oh, I did this and this was the outcome, it's quite nice for the mentor as well. And I think they can get a lot out of it. It's like a cycle then, because you gain that momentum and motivation as you push yourself out your comfort zone and you grow. And then I think you can more naturally take ownership and want to do that as well, without having the mentor. In day-to-day life, you're willing to go out your comfort zone a bit more because you've got used to it.
Yeah, that's such a good point on accountability. Putting a marker, again, we're all human, and actually if you know you've got a meeting in the diary and you've got to prove that you've done, whatever you said you were going to do, it makes a difference.
Because these people don't owe you anything, they're literally doing you a favour, I think. So there is ownership and accountability, I think, is really important. I'm sort of glad you've touched on that. Is there any other practical steps? We've talked about mentors and things like that, internal networking, and I want to come on to external networking soon, but would you both have any other like practical tips to level up, or other things people can do if we're talking about the career ladder maybe?
Another one that I was thinking of earlier is something you sort of touched on, which is, exactly, see someone that is in the type of role that you want and work out how they got there. Because actually it's often not the way we think. The new managing partner at my law firm, for instance, she's an amazing appointment and a very, very talented fee earning solicitor that then took on managerial responsibility for a segment at the firm. That's how we break the work up. Then took on more responsibility for our sort of major client relationships, and then became managing partner. So it isn't just the case that, as you might assume, just the highest sort of billing fee earner became managing partner. It's actually looking to build the skills that you need to take on that senior role in the end. And sometimes that's not that linear route.
Do you have anything to echo?
I definitely agree. I think in terms of the building the skills, I've always said, if you know you want to go down a certain path or you want to get to a certain point, I think you need to start. Obviously, you can't do the job before you get into the job, but start doing the things that you would be doing in that next role that you want to go into. So, for example, I knew I wanted to obviously move into a management role. I've never managed people. I've not got the leadership skills. How can I build those? So I spoke to my manager and looked at different projects that we could come up with that I could do, run in our branch that would push me out my comfort zone, develop the leadership skills, but then also getting involved in other things. So there was something called the Future Leader Programme in Manpower Group, and the interview process for that was even more intense than for the consultant role. But I got on and I was the only one from Brook Street on it. So that gave me exposure to all of the other brands and everything. But I think the point is I was learning the skills through that programme to move into a management role before actually going into the job. And I think then once I've been in the management role, I knew if I want to progress again, I kind of need to start learning those skills for that next level. So I did my level 5 in leadership and management, which through Brook Street as well. So that's obviously an external programme, but there's often things that you can do with your employer that might be external, that you can tie into your role.
I completely agree.
That's such a great example of something I love talking about, which is comfort zones being like a muscle, like something you need to flex and build. And as you say, what you are doing now, a year or two ago would have found terrifying. And you're going to have to, and so your comfort zone really moves with you. And so putting yourselves in those positions, maybe before you feel ready, is such a great way of developing.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? Because I've read a lot around mindset and things. I like to understand how the mind works and things like that because I think it does give you comfort. But when I started reading about mindset, I got onto neuroscience, and that just blew my mind, because that was all about how you can create new pathways in your brain. So the first time you do something, obviously it's really scary and you've never done it before and your body's like, oh my God. And then actually the more that you do it, the less scary it gets, because you're building new pathways in your brain. So as I read about this neuroscience, I was like, oh my God. And then I'd go into, say if I was nervous for a presentation or public speaking, that sort of thing, I'd go in and I'd be thinking to myself, well, this is the first step. Actually, the next time you do it, it's going to feel easier because you're used to it. And I think the more you push yourself out your comfort zone, the more you literally are rewiring your brain. So when I saw that there was actually science behind it, I was like, okay. And then it actually motivates you to keep pushing yourself
I love that. I've been
out of
thinking
that
about it for ages. I
comfort zone.
didn't know there was science behind it.
Yeah,
so I'm glad
honestly,
we can back that up.
neuroscience. Yeah. Get some books on it. It's
Yeah,
really
I love it.
interesting. Yeah.
That sounds great. I love everything that you've covered, honestly, and I think in terms of like leveling up, this conversation has taken quite a nice journey. So we spoke a lot about internal things. I really want to know like how you shaped like your platform to what it is today, and sort of, you mentioned you've got a network of 50,000 people. I would love to know how that went from 1 to 50. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, great question. So we are, I always like to say, probably the UK's leading sort of career development community these days. And I think it came from our mission, our USP hitting a nerve. And that was, like I mentioned a bit earlier, I think the career development space had seen no real imagination, no real innovation for years and years and years. People were just doing the same old. And as I say, I don't think myself and a generation like me wanted to spend their time doing that. And so there are a few things we always promised our community. One was to take them to amazing venues that are really exciting, the newest openings, the most exciting places. We always say, if you're at your desk at sort of 6 o'clock, or if it's a morning one, if your alarm goes, you think, oh, do I have to go to that thing? And one of the things that's going to get you out of bed or get you to sort of leave your office is the venue. So that's one of the things. The other is the speakers. They have to really resonate with your audience and your generation, because for too long you sort of had a 30-year career at PwC and therefore became a speaker or a coach. And I don't think that's the type of career that a lot of the people I know actually want to build anymore.
Yeah.
And so yes, with those promises, I think we really resonated with a whole generation. And I think networking is really misunderstood. The word, I think, still puts shivers down people's spines, you know, when you hear it.
It's like organised fun, isn't it? Like
exactly.
Sort of thing.
I've been trying to rebrand it for ages. I've not quite managed yet. But I think if I said to you, are you good at building relationships? You'd be like, yeah, no
meet
problem.
Some cool people.
Yeah, I can do that. But if I say, do you want to come to a networking event? It just feels a bit more ick.
Feels a bit formal, doesn't it?
Exactly. So we're all about trying to make it natural and building environments that people feel comfortable enough to build real, genuine relationships. Because I think the concept of networking is really misunderstood. The networking event is one element of a networking strategy. How rare is it to actually go to one of these events and walk away with a business card and do business with that person next week? It can take 5 years to build up a relationship or a network that is powerful enough, that is strong enough, genuine enough to actually start seeing real results. Yeah. So get going as soon as you can is my advice.
When it comes to networking, I'm a firm believer that there doesn't need to be an end goal. There doesn't need to be some sort of exchange or some sort of result at the end of it. It is just nice to be nice to people and have relationships. Like, I would just recommend to anyone, that's like my biggest piece of advice to anyone early in their career, in any stage of their career, is just to be as nice to many people as you can on the way up, because those people sort of will support you. And I'm big personality, so I find, again, networking like a sport, but there is people who need a little bit of hand holding to that sort of thing.
And on that's a really good point, that networking can look different to everyone. So if walking into a room full of people is not your cup of tea, fine, maybe go for a one-to-one, maybe take someone from the office and the two of you go for a coffee with someone. There's many different ways of networking, and it can look different for whoever you are.
I was just going to say, though, I really liked the point, I think it's on one of the questions anyway, so we'll cover that bit, just around the traditional career path, how you said like that doesn't appeal to a lot of people now. And I think in this day and age, like, there's so many jobs that didn't exist years and years ago. And there's constantly, even within like our company, there's always new departments coming up, new job titles coming up, and almost like people can go into roles that's a brand new role and they kind of shape it into whatever it needs to be. And I think from consultant to team leader to manager to area manager is not really just the only path that you can go down now.
I agree. Yeah, we've talked a lot about squiggly careers in this podcast and stuff before, and you mentioned about your managing partner, and which is a really good example of that.
One of the questions there is about careers ladders. We can come to this point straight away. And I think the question was, does the career ladder still exist? And the analogy I like to use is more of like a climbing frame or a climbing wall. You can be going up, but actually sometimes you need to go down and a bit sideways to then find the route that is actually going to get you to where you want to get to.
Of course, I completely agree.
And do you know what? So many people have been with Brook Street for like 10, 15, 20 years. But
40 years, some of them.
I mean, I'm touching on 9, which is wild. But I think the reason being is that there are so many different routes you can go down, because obviously we are a big organisation. organisation. Like so many people, if you speak to them, if they've been there 20 years, they're like, oh, I started off as a consultant and then I became a manager, but then I went into compliance and then I went into this department and now they're in a role that didn't exist like 2 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely changed. And we've obviously got like the career ladder in Brook Street as well, where they recognise that a consultant, for example, they don't a top performing consultant might not want to go and be a manager. They might have no desire to manage people, but they still want to feel like they're progressing and they're able to, you know, get those salary increases and the title increases. But so what they've done is the career ladder for the consultants, where they can go from consultant to senior to principal, and it's very clear what you need to do to achieve that next jump up and the pay rise. And I think it just it's motivating for those people that are high performers, that they can keep climbing and keep doing what they love if that's what they want to continue doing. So yeah, I think it's good to have different routes and avenues for different people and different skills.
I completely agree. I don't know if you have anything to add to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just say good on the Brook Street as an employer, because the employer has to be aware, if you want to retain top talent, you've got to give them opportunities like that.
Yeah, and it's motivating for new people coming in to see what's possible. So not just coming in and thinking, oh, like, you know, I've got no experience, or I'm starting from scratch and I want to get to here, but I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Like, that's one of the first things I speak to new starters about, is actually this is what the path looks like. Obviously, there is the leadership route as well if you want that, but the consultant career pathway makes it so clear what you need to do. So I think obviously for people that are working in organisations where maybe they don't have that clarity, it's important to be speaking to your manager and understanding what success looks like in that organisation. What, you know, if you are looking to climb a certain way, what does that look like, and have steps that you can work towards. Yeah,
that's really important, because there's only so, you know, any employer, there's only so many pay rises you can give people. You have to be giving people a path and a route that they can see, so they feel themselves making that progress.
Great guys. How can people clarify their goals and approach them in a way that's actually achievable?
For me, whenever anyone asks me about this, it's honesty. I think we humans are great at sort of kidding ourselves and lying to ourselves about what our actual goals are. And I think especially at the junior end of careers, we can have other people's goals imprinted on us. So it might be our parents' goals and what we think they will think is a sensible career. It might be the sort of education route we've gone to. You know, did you go to university? What do you think that, you know, lecturer might think is a sensible career route? Is that really your career route? Some people do want to go right up the ladder and they want to be CEOs and earn loads of money working really, really hard. Some people don't. And if you're not honest with yourself, how can you possibly set a goal and try and stick to it?
Yeah, I agree. I would like to have my own recruitment agency. I've made that no secret over the last 2.5, probably 6 years of my career. It's not happening next week, or it might, but I have tried to identify people around my career that I am learning things from, and I also have tried to identify roles that I think would help me get more experience. So coming maybe in as a marketing person, I learned a lot about like the processes that you guys have, like what happens after I do my job, what do you do with those applications and with those results. And then I decided I wanted to learn more about like the operations of actually running a business. I moved into a new role that was client side, because my experience had typically been internal. So that would be my probably advice to cover what you've just mentioned, is actually pinpoint things that you can do to map out either a skills gap, some sort of experience that you want, or things like that. I'm not to
go back to the careers edit, but that's one of the reasons why we're really proudly cross industry, because I do think you can go to, you know, founders can go to founders forums, marketing people can go to, you know, people in marketing events. I do think, like you've just explained really neatly there, eventually you're going to need a powerful cross. You don't know when you might need to know how a marketing role works, but actually
100%.
Having someone in your network might be really useful one day.
Yeah, I completely agree. To go back to what Chloe says, I think it's those like mentorship places. It's not someone who can teach you things, but it's also someone who can put you in a room that you need to be in, you know, or open those sorts of doors for you and those sorts of things. And I think like just being willing to take the steps to achieve those goals if you have set them. And again, we went back to it before. That goal doesn't have to be like something really linear, that there's like a prize or a result at the end of it. It's like maybe that by the time I am 35, I will have made this move into this industry, or by the time I'm 50, I'm gonna retire into the civil service.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like those sorts
You can
of...
have those short-term and long-term goals.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually having more achievable short-term ones with slightly broader long-term ones is maybe better.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because of the experience that you both have, you feel more inclined to support the younger generation? I know obviously you as a manager, you get fresh talent in, but do you feel like that there's an onus on you to like give back almost?
I think
or...
anyone that has gone through the journey of trying to get a training contract at a law firm, particularly in the city, you have felt that pain quite recently,
right,
and therefore want to give back to anyone having to go through that.
Yeah, and for me as well, because I know a lot of recruitment agencies might not look at people without experience, but the majority of new people that I've taken on, they've not come with a recruitment background, but I've seen something in them, whether they've got transferable skills, the right personality for it. And I think it's nice to be able to give somebody that opportunity, that as long as they've got the passion for it, I think it's nice to be able to give that opportunity and develop them, especially if they've got those aspirations to grow within a company and a role.
I love that in terms of managerial skills as well. Seeing something in someone and thinking, okay, that's not the polished, finished article.
Yeah.
But I see the talent there, and I think I can sort of blend that or mould that.
Yeah. And I think touching on like the long-term, short-term goals, I think it's sometimes people can be so scared or unsure of what to do next that they just don't do anything. Whereas I think,
fear makes you stagnant.
But if you just set a long-term goal, you might go down a different path, but it doesn't matter if you don't get there. But as long as you're setting those short-term goals, you might hit a few goals, and then it might take you on a completely different path, and the long-term goal then might change. But at least from taking those steps and taking that action, it's led you closer to realizing what you do actually want to do. Because obviously sometimes if you haven't done a role, you think you want to do it, but you might start working towards it and realize, okay, maybe that's not for me, but it leads you into something else. So I think, it's just constantly looking at what that next step is and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks rather than feeling really overwhelmed with like a massive goal for where you want to be when you're 50. That's like, oh my God, I don't.
The point on fear of failure that you made, I think, is a really interesting one. If you look at people, a lot of successful people, I genuinely believe it's not always about the like technical talent. It's generally those people that are willing to stick their hand up, that are willing to take on that role maybe before they're quite ready for it, like you've said you've done. That's the type of person that whether we like it or not tends to succeed.
It's not always about being intelligent or smart. It's literally, I think sometimes just putting yourself out there, isn't it, and believing in yourself.
Guys, how do we balance a drive for success and that sort of hunger to grow with like actually living a good, healthy work-life balance and avoiding burnout? I'm going to come to you first, Ollie.
Okay, I'm not really going to answer your question, because I'm going to say I would go back to something a point I made earlier, which is you've got to really be able to step back and say, what are my goals? And what is success to me? Because I have some friends that work at US law firms, Magic Circle law firms, and they're in the office till 2 a.m. And I look at them leaving at 6:30 and getting home and seeing family and all that sort of stuff. And I say, how on earth can you do that? How can you want to do that? And they get a buzz out of it. They absolutely love it because they thrive on that. So I think rather than saying, how can I, you've got to start with who you are and what your goals are and what you really want to achieve. Because if you can work that out, then you can start to sort of plan the route to get there. And it may be that you are the type of person that thrives off that really fast-paced environment, long hours. But actually, if you're not, set that goal, work out where you want to get to. And I think it's easier to sort of do it that way.
Great answer. To you, Chloe?
Yeah, I think for me as well, because you do see this like hustle culture where it's like the longer hours that you work, the better you must be doing.
But doesn't. Oh my God.
But for me personally, I find that I look at how efficient and productive am I being with my working hours. So like rather than having to work overtime hours and hours, I look at, right, have I made the most out of the time that I've got with this day? So time blocking my diary, using my to-do list, little things that you can do, I think, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your day, being quite strict with what you're doing in certain time, not getting distracted. And that kind of motivates me then, because I'm like, well, my brain kind of switches off early evening. I don't want to be working. I will if I need to, and if I've got something time sensitive to do, but I don't want that to be my life. So actually that then motivates me to not get distracted throughout the day, to not procrastinate, to literally time block and do what I need to do within that time so that I'm not having to do silly hours. But I think, yeah, like Ollie said, like everybody's different, aren't they? And some people might like
But
that.
I love that.
their-
It sounds
their
as though
role
you
might-
are exactly what I was explaining, which is you've worked out how you work, when you work best,
Yeah.
what you want from your job, and that's how you've set your sort of time frame.
Yeah.
Great, guys. Honestly, great.
They worked really well together, those
yeah,
two
you
answers,
did.
actually.
It's a really good duo.
In synergy.
Yeah. So, last questions I'm going to leave you with, and let's do this really quick fire. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to take the next step in their career or move up the ladder or do whatever? Yeah, one piece of advice that they can do, a practical step in the next 6 to 12 months would be amazing.
Can I give 2?
You can give 3 if you want.
So networking, honestly, the type of person listening to this is already taking the first step because you're already interested in educating yourself about how to develop your career. Get networking, start building that now because that's going to be your support network and your superpower later in your career. And the second point is think about your soft skills.
Yeah.
Everyone around you will be giving you invitations to seminars, webinars, training on this, that, the other, and all the latest news in your particular field. I would go away and look at training on my soft skills, work out how I make more of an impact in the office, work out how I make better relationships in the office, because they're the types of things that separate you from someone else who's very good at their job.
Yeah, that sounds good. And Chloe?
I would say go and identify somebody that is doing what you want to do, always where you want to be, and go and ask them to be your mentor.
Love it.
Great idea.
Love it.
Great idea, Great idea. Yes, thank you both so much. Ollie, where can our listeners follow you?
At the Careers Edit, pretty much everywhere. LinkedIn, website, Instagram, TikTok, all over. And if you want to find me on LinkedIn, Oliver Haddock, you're more than welcome to.
Brilliant. And Chloe?
And for me, it would be LinkedIn, or obviously anyone internal can reach out to me on Teams.
And I would really, really, really recommend doing so. That's what I would. So guys, thank you. That's the end of today's episode. I really had a great time chatting with Ollie and Chloe today. As always, if you're in the market for a new role, why not check out Brook Street online? There may be a dream job waiting there for you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends or colleagues, and you can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Thank you, and see you later.